Yeah, I'm going to get started by welcoming everyone. Welcome to Wat Tung. Nice to see you guys here. Welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. Today is what we call our group learning program, where we get together with students and I'm going to guide you in a meditation session. But then I'm going to provide you a talk about the teachings of the Buddha. And each Sunday we go chapter by chapter in this book titled Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. We're in chapter 14 this week, which is titled Cultivating Healthy Mental States, Loving Kindness, Compassion, Sympathetic Joy, and Equanimity. This is where the Buddha kind of gets the reputation of being like a doctor, where there's certain symptoms that are in your mind, and then there's a certain prescription or an antidote that you apply. But you're your own best doctor. So if you understand the symptoms, you understand the prescription, when you see those symptoms in your mind, you can actually apply the prescription. Because what the Buddha is teaching you is how to get to a point where your mind's enlightened. What enlightenment is where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. You no longer experience any discontent feelings. And this comes through training of the mind. And meditation is an important part of that, but there's other things you need too besides just meditation. So I'm going to start out with meditation, but then I'm going to help you guys to understand what's called the Brahma-viharas, or the 4 healthy mental states that are going to antidote certain symptoms in your mind. So if you'd like to join for meditation, the way that I start this is with some chanting in order to ease into the meditation. We have chanting sheets over there on the cabinet. You're welcome to help yourself to get a chanting sheet, because as you chant, you'll actually see that it helps you to get more benefit out of the meditation, because it helps to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. During the lifetime of the Buddha, he used chanting as a way to help his students to commit the teachings to memory. Every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally. This is how they were able to remember the teachings. So you can see from the origins of chanting that this isn't a rite, ritual, ceremony, worship, or prayer, or anything like that. This is nowadays used to be able to help ease your mind into meditation, where during the lifetime of the Buddha, it was used more as a learning tool, as a learning device. So if you like to chant along, you're welcome to, and you'll see that it helps you. If you read the English translations, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of that, I don't think the Buddha even created these chants himself, because he wouldn't have walked around and asked people to chant these chants to him out of respect for him. This would be ego or arrogance. And by the time someone's gotten to enlightenment, they don't have that in their mind anymore. They don't think of themselves as being above others or below others. They just think about everybody as being equal. So the Buddha wouldn't have created chants and asked his students to chant them to him. But if you learn from a teacher how to move from anger, sadness, frustration, and all these other discontent feelings to this peaceful and joyful mental state that is enlightenment, and this teacher didn't want anything or expect anything from you, they were just helping you out of the kindness of their heart, you might actually have a lot of appreciation and gratitude for that person too. So that's why I think they came from his students, either during his life or after his death. Once we're in the meditation, I'm going to be providing you some guidance where I'm going to be teaching you and instructing you how to meditate while we're actually meditating together. But then there's going to be a period of time of quietness where we're all meditating. Here at the temple, and anybody joining online, we'll just all be meditating at the same time. Now, during this period of time of quietness, I'm sure you're going to hear occasional sounds, because you can't be in an environment where it's permanently quiet. If you're in meditation where you're craving permanent quietness and you hear a sound, you'll cause your mind to be annoyed or frustrated. This is why you can eliminate your anger and frustration and all these other feelings, because it's the mind itself that is actually causing them. But if you're in meditation understanding that the world is impermanent and you're not going to be in permanent quietness, then when you hear that sound, you can be at ease. You can be completely peaceful, understanding the world is working the way it's intended to work. These sounds are going to arise, they're going to change, and then they're going to fade away. And then we're going to come out of the meditation with some more chanting. And that's where I'll start today's class, helping you guys to understand this topic of cultivating healthy mental states. In terms of your body position for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught. And you would learn these at different times as part of your journey to enlightenment. It's kind of like having a tool belt and using the different tools that you need at different times in order to be able to train your mind. There's seated, lying, standing, and walking. But oftentimes people are learning in the seated position. So I'll give you guys a little bit of guidance on this, and then you can learn these other positions at other times. It's important to know that there isn't just one way to actually sit in meditation that would be permanent, and we don't live in that world. So you can sit however you like, whether you're on the floor, in a chair, maybe if you're at home, you're on a bench or a sofa or in a wheelchair. The things that I'm going to share with you are just recommendations or suggestions that you can can use if you like, but you can also use anything that you come up with yourself as well. So if you're on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear. This will kind of help soften your seat a bit. And if you're going to bring your legs together in the cross leg position, you might just decide to do that lightly. Whereas if they're real tight, it can impede the circulation and cause pain in the lower body. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets your hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, allowing the circulation to flow. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If this is comfortable for you, you could use it. But again, it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way. There's other options here. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people just rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you find whatever's comfortable for you. And the same thing's true for anybody who's in a chair or a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair. You can also sit however you like. Some people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles, but you can see me sitting in a chair here with my legs crossed, so that's an option for you as well. In terms of your hands and arms, you can put those wherever you like as well. In terms of the upper body, you would like this to be erect with the sternum up and the shoulders back. It'll help keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. What meditation is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session. You're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities. So you'd like the mind to be attentive and alert during this meditation. Whereas if you were slouched like this, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you were real rigid, the mind could be overactive and uptight. So you'd like the upper body to be in the middle with the sternum up and the shoulders back, because not only will it keep the mind attentive and alert, but it'll also make it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So I'm going to do some chanting to ease into the meditation. You're welcome to join in, and then I'll come back in with the guidance to help you. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Emakewa Wat Tung Mahakewanang Apiwateyami Sawakato emakewata tammo Dhammang namasami Supatipano emakewato Sawakasangho Sanghang namami Namo rasa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa Namo rasa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa Namo rasa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa Iti piso emakewa Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang sammono Sakato rokavitu Anutero purisa Dhamma sati satatawa manusrang Bhutto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect. Just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here, you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath, not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then, whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathe in gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. สัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเกวาพุทธังมหาเกวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาเกวัตตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเกวัตโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาเกวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสรังโพโตภาควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, good morning to all of you guys. Nice to see everyone here at the temple. Welcome to everyone joining online as well. This individual who we refer to as the Buddha 2,500 years ago figured out how to get to enlightenment. What enlightenment is, where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you no longer experience any discontent feelings. You will have eliminated the causes and conditions that produce things like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All of this can be eliminated from the mind through training the mind. Oftentimes people think that these feelings are caused by something external. You might think that it's your mom and dad that are making you angry, or your brothers and sisters are annoying you, or your boss is irritating you, or something like this. This isn't actually true. What you can see through the teachings of the Buddha is that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. The mind is craving permanence, wanting things to be permanent, and the mind can only be happy when it gets what it wants. And if you don't get what you want, you experience the painful feelings. And the world is impermanent. It's constantly changing. So if your mind is craving permanence while the world is impermanent, then that means your mind is just going to be going up and down and up and down. That when you get what you want, you'll be really happy. And when you don't get what you want, you'll be angry and sad and frustrated. And the more that you can see this, it's very empowering. Because when you can have a breakthrough to be able to see that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings, that means you can actually fix it. Whereas if it's other people that are causing these feelings, then that means you can't fix it. The Buddha discovered 10 individual pollutions that are in the mind. And when you apply his tools and techniques to be able to uproot those out of the mind, that's where the mind's experiencing more and more of the qualities of the peace and the joy in the enlightened mental state. You'll notice that the mind is focused. You have concentration, clarity, and deep memory, because your mind will be performing optimally when you don't have those pollutions in the mind. You'll notice that your personal and professional relationships are really blossoming, because in the unenlightened state, you're going to have a certain amount of bitterness and harshness and hostility in your mind. And you'll put that out in your relationships, and it's damaging your relationships. And oftentimes people feel justified in that conduct because they think that the other person is causing them to be angry. And they might feel like that person deserves this hostility and bitterness. But it's actually just damaging your relationships. By the time you get to enlightenment, all your relationships are harmonious. And you can't even be in a bad mood anymore. By the time you get to enlightenment, it would be physically impossible for you to experience a bad mood. The Buddha taught a core central teaching called the Eightfold Path. This is where people would start on their journey, is understanding the Eightfold Path. It's 8 individual factors that are going to train your mind to be able to experience more and more of the qualities of enlightenment and actually attain enlightenment. And then there's other teachings that plug into this. The very first teaching of the Buddha is called right view. It's the Four Noble Truths. And in 4 simple statements, the Buddha explains the problem in the mind, the cause of the problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward. And if you haven't studied this yet, it's really important for you to be able to peer into that and penetrate into it using the original words of the Buddha, which is what I share in all the books and resources that I actually share. You would like to be able to independently verify this, because the teachings of the Buddha aren't based in belief. You're not believing a bunch of things and hoping something good happens when you die. It's also not rules and commandments, and it's not rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, and prayer. It's about doing this inner work of growth and development, cultivation of wisdom, and training the mind. The topic that I have to share with you today is called Cultivating Healthy Mental States, Loving Kindness, Compassion, Sympathetic Joy, and Equanimity. This is where the Buddha gets a reputation of being like a doctor, because there are certain symptoms that you experience in your mind because of these pollutions, and there's certain antidotes to that. The Eightfold Path is the core central teaching that you need to be able to learn and apply that. But as you do, there's other teachings that are going to plug into this Eightfold Path. And because we're in chapter 14, I'm now starting to introduce students to some of these other things that you need to be able to learn in order to be able to make your way to enlightenment. But in the earlier part of this program, I was teaching all the foundational teachings that you need. And if you haven't learned that, it's okay, because it's been recorded on our YouTube channel, on our podcast. I've taught this program many, many times. It's in our book. We have audiobooks, many ways for you to learn this if you would like to learn it. But today I'm going to share with you these 4 healthy mental states, because even without having known the foundational teachings, if you understand this, whenever you actually experience certain symptoms, you can apply the prescription, because you are your own best doctor. You don't need somebody else to tell you that you're experiencing anger and frustration, or shyness, or embarrassment, or guilt, or shame, or fear, or any of these other types of feelings that you might experience. You can see that for yourself. That's your mindfulness, your awareness of mind. If you're aware of what's going on in your mind, now you can apply effort to bring in the wholesome quality that's going to antidote that. And if you do this enough and you cultivate the mind this way, these 4 healthy mental states are just always permeating in the mind. These healthy mental states, they don't arise, they don't change, and they don't fade away. They are permeating in the mind. You need to be able to bring your mind to full growth, full perfection, and full development, so that these mental states are just always present in your mind. But in order to get there, you're going to need to apply a certain amount of effort to be able to bring the mind there. So I'm going to walk you through each one of these, and I'm going to explain to you the symptoms that you experience, and I'm going to explain to you the antidote and how to fix it, and then I'm going to explain to you how to cultivate these in the mind so that they're always permeating in the mind. I'm going to be pausing a couple of times to open up for questions that you guys might have, because that's part of the path, is being able to get guidance, because you're not going to necessarily understand everything the very first time. So we have microphones in the white bowl in the center of the room. We also have some up here as well. If you have a question here at the temple, if you could get a microphone, that'll help the people online to be able to hear you. If you speak here without a microphone, they won't be able to hear you. So all you need to do is get a microphone, take it back to your seat, press the gray button, and you'll see the lights come on. And if you just hold this up to your chin, we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online. For those of you guys that are online, if you have questions, you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section, and I'll be able to see that. Or if you're in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand, unmute your microphone, and ask any and all questions that you like. So These mental states are loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. These are oftentimes referred to as the Brahma-viharas. You might hear this. During the lifetime of the Buddha, there were individuals called Brahmin that were practicing. These individuals were born into a certain family. It was about 15% of society that were considered to be holy people. And if you were born into this family, immediately people considered you to be holy. And the other 85% of the population were taught that if you wanted to improve your life, you had to go spend time with these people and pay them to do a right ritual, ceremony, worship, or prayer on your behalf. And then you were supposed to go back home and your life was going to get better. Well, the Buddha could see that this wasn't true, that this isn't the way the world truly works. But unfortunately, this is what was going on for a long period of time. And it's even actually happening today to a great extent, that people will go to somebody and they think that, if they do some kind of right ritual, ceremony, worship, or prayer, that their life is going to somehow get better. So people would come and they would maybe talk to a Brahmin, which today we might refer to as a Hindu priest, and they would say, hey, I'm having all these problems with my children or my husband or my wife, or, at my work, I'm having these issues. And they're like, oh, you need to do this ceremony. That's going to cost you $5. And of course, the money wasn't dollars back then, but you understand the analogy, right? And then they would say, oh, okay, let me do that ceremony. So they would do that ceremony for you, and you were supposed to go home and your life was going to magically get better. Well, after 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, your life wasn't getting better and you needed to come back. And now you're like, hey, things are actually getting worse. And they're like, oh, there's another ceremony for that. That's going to be $20 to do that, right? And now this is kind of breeding corruption. And the Buddha could see that. And he understood that the way to really, truly help people is to help them cultivate their mind. If you develop your mind and you cultivate wisdom, you'll make better decisions. But if you don't have wisdom of how to have a healthy relationship with your children or your life partner, you're not going to have a healthy relationship. There's no amount of water that I can sprinkle on you that's going to help you to have better relationships. There's no amount of strings that I can tie on your wrist that is going to help you in your career. If you're going to experience improvement in your life, you're going to need to cultivate wisdom, make better decisions, and you will experience better results. But you can't do that through rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, and prayer. So the Buddha was teaching this natural law and cultivating the mind and developing wisdom. But these Brahmas that were practicing these rituals and ceremonies, they were also teaching something called the Brahma-viharas, which are these 4 healthy mental states. What the word Brahma means is it means God, and Vihara means a dwelling or a place to dwell. So the Brahmin were teaching these Brahma-viharas because they were saying if you practice these, it will help you to get closer and closer to God. That's not how the Buddha taught these, but this is how they were teaching it. But this was happening and this was being taught at the time. So the Buddha knew as part of his practice that this is what actually helped to antidote the mind. It wasn't about dwelling with God. That's not what the Buddha was teaching. He was teaching you to cultivate your mind and develop your mind. But at least you understand where this word Brahma-vihara comes from. It comes from the Brahmin because they were teaching people how to get closer and closer to God through rituals and ceremonies and things like this. And then they were teaching a bit of moral conduct, and they were teaching some of these types of things. But when the Buddha incorporates this into his teachings, he teaches it as a way to antidote the mind and eliminate certain symptoms that are in the mind, because everything that the Buddha is teaching is about the cultivation of the mind. So the first one here is called loving kindness, and I'll teach you about this, and then I'll teach you about all the others as well. What loving kindness is loving kindness is active goodwill towards all beings without judgment, where you have a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. This is important that when you cultivate this in the mind, and we talk about this, that you understand that loving kindness is without judgment. Oftentimes people are taught, don't respect others until they respect you first. Well, if everybody was practicing this, nobody would be respecting anybody. Because you would say, well, I'm not going to respect you until you respect me. And then that person would say, well, I'm not going to respect you until you respect me. So everybody's kind of stuck in a log jam. So if you did that with your love and your kindness, where it was like, oh, I'm not going to be loving and kind to you until you're loving and kind with me. Well, I'm not going to be loving and kind to you until you're loving and kind with me. Essentially, what this person is doing is they're looking for some criteria to determine whether this person deserves your love and your kindness or not. And that's not what an enlightened being is practicing. An enlightened being understands that if you practice being loving and kind and you put that out, because of the natural law of cause and effect, or the natural law of karma, that whatever you put out comes back to you, that if you're loving and kind, that's what you'll experience as love and kindness. So you need to be able to practice this genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, this active goodwill without judgment, because this makes it unconditional, that you don't have conditions that need to be met in order for you to be loving and kind. If you're doing that, that is not loving kindness, because you're waiting for someone else to do something first. You need to make the wise decision to be loving and kind to the people around you. What this is going to do is it's going to remedy the unwholesome qualities of anger, hatred, ill will, and all the lesser versions like frustration, agitation, annoyance. You might actually have dislike in your mind towards certain people, where there are certain people you like and certain people that you dislike. That dislike is actually coming from your own mind. Oftentimes people think that the dislike is coming from the other person, but it actually is coming from your own mind. That the mind has craving, desire, attachment. The mind is longing, yearning. It's craving permanence. And if people do things this way, the way you want them to do it, the way you're craving for them to do it, you'll like them. And you'll be really happy when you're with those people because they're doing it your way. But when people don't do things your way, that's where the mind doesn't like those people. Right? This is the mind craving permanence, wanting everybody to do things a certain way. And because the unenlightened mind has ego, it thinks my way is the right way and everybody else's way is the wrong way. So now that bitterness and harshness and hostility that is coming up in the mind perceives that as coming from the other person. That dislike or that frustration is coming from the other person, where in reality it's coming from your craving. It's the mind longing, yearning, craving permanence, wanting everybody to do things a certain way. And this just isn't the way the world works. Everybody does things different ways. The unenlightened mind sees things as there's a right way and there's a wrong way. It sees things as black and white, where there's many shades of gray. There's actually many right ways to do things in the world. In fact, if you had 10 enlightened beings that were all together and they were looking at a certain challenge, they could come up with 10 different solutions of how to actually solve that. And every single one of them would work. So getting to enlightenment isn't that everybody's doing things exactly the same. It's that you're training your mind and uprooting the causes and conditions that are producing these discontent feelings. So you're not going to be in a world where everybody does things exactly the same way. It's just not possible because we live in an impermanent world. But that's what the mind craves. And it can only be happy when people do things your way. And when they don't do things your way, that's where the bitterness and the harshness and hostility is coming up. And when you put that out in your relationships, it's just damaging your relationships. When the mind's not getting what it wants, when it's not getting its cravings fulfilled, it will tend to push people away. This is called aversion, where you push away a person or you push away a situation. You might have pushed away friends or family out of your life, thinking that they were the ones who are causing your difficulties and struggles, and you might have pushed them out of your life. This didn't solve your problem. You still get angry. You still get frustrated. If they were the true cause of your problem, you would be peaceful and joyful from that point forward. Or the second thing you'll do when you don't realize that it's your own mind causing these feelings because of craving, desire, attachment, is you'll be bitter and harsh and hostile to people. Kind of like an animal growling and roaring at another being. Do things my way. I can only be happy if you do it my way. And you're trying to fear this person into doing things your way. Or the third thing you'll do is you'll tend to put your expectations on people and try to pressure them to do things your way. This is the mind trying to get its cravings fulfilled. It's trying to create this little bubble that you live in where everybody does things your way. And if someone doesn't do things your way, you push them aside. Or you might be bitter, harsh, and hostile to them, trying to fear them to do it your way. Or you might put pressure on them to try to convince them to do it your way. And you might actually have people doing this to you too. People might be pushing you away. They might be bitter, harsh, and hostile to you. And they might be putting pressure on you and putting expectations on you to do things their way. This isn't what's going to produce peacefulness and joy in your mind and in your relationships, because there's only one person in the world that actually does things your way 100% of the time. Do you know who this person is that does things your way 100% of the time? She knows. Anybody else know? Yourself. You're the only one who does things your way 100% of the time. So if you can only like people, if you can only love people who do things your way, there's only one person in the world you can love. And you might even have trouble doing that from time to time. You might have trouble loving yourself, right? So you need to get past this idea that everybody needs to do things exactly the same way. And what you can end up doing is you can separate the choices and decisions that people make from the person themselves, where you can disagree with the choices and decisions that people make while still loving the person. Right? Let me ask you guys a question. When I teach this topic, I oftentimes ask this question. Is there anybody here that 100% agreed with every single thing their parents ever did? Can you raise your hand? I've never had anybody raise their hand, right? You're not going to agree 100% with what people do, but you can train your mind to still have love and kindness for them, understanding that you can disagree with their choices and decisions, and that's okay. Disagreeing with someone's choices and decisions doesn't mean you're disrespecting them. It just means you have a different opinion. It just means you've had different experiences in life. This is why we didn't agree with our parents 100%, because they had different experiences. They grew up differently. They grew up in a different time, and they had different wisdom. They had different understanding. Our thoughts about the world and our understanding of the world, our wisdom of the world is different than theirs. So of course they made different decisions than us, right? If we have certain expectations and we want our friends and our family to meet that expectation, they'll never meet that expectation. Even if they work really, 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 really hard to try to get to that, even if they get to that expectation, you'll be happy temporarily, but then your expectations will change. And you might actually have people doing this to you too. Your parents might be putting expectations on you and trying to pressure you to do things that they want. They think they're going to be happy if you're a doctor or a lawyer, or if you have a life partner, or if you have children, or if you live in a certain place. They might be putting pressure on you because that's what they want. That's what their mind is longing, yearning for. But you need to understand that you're living your own life and you need to make your own decisions, that it's not about pleasing other people, because you can't please other people. If someone's going to be happy, they need to be happy inwardly. So you need to be able to separate the choices and decisions that someone makes from the person themselves, so you can have love and kindness towards this person, understanding that they're going to make decisions differently than you, and that's okay. So the mind needs to be trained to be able to understand this. And that's why the core central teaching of the Buddha is so important, the Eightfold Path. You need to start with that. But as you do, and you're noticing this anger and this frustration and this hostility coming up in their mind, there's techniques to actually train this. There's a meditation called loving kindness meditation that essentially rewires your mind to be loving and kind. I'm actually going to be doing this with students tonight at 6:30 here at the temple. It syncs up with the Sunday night walking market. If you're coming to the walking market, or if you'd like to just come to the temple, I'm going to be teaching the loving kindness meditation, where it's a different meditation than what we just did, where you're essentially rewiring your mind. You're essentially filling up the gas tank in your mind with loving kindness, this genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. But where the real transformation is occurring is when you go out into the world to be loving and kind with the people around you. You wouldn't be able to meditate your way to the elimination of anger. The meditation is important because, like I mentioned, it's kind of filling up your gas tank, but the real transformation is occurring when you go out into the world and you interact with people in a loving and kind way. That's where the Buddha's core central teaching of the Eightfold Path comes in again, because he teaches you wise ways to speak and interact with people and certain actions to have with people. He's not teaching you rules and commandments. He's showing you the natural law of cause and effect, and showing you how the decisions that you make about your moral conduct is going to affect the type of experience that you have. For example, if you're bitter and harsh and hostile with your tone, your tempo, and your word choice, and you put that out, that's what's going to come back to you. But if you learn how to be polite, kind, friendly, and respectful with your tone, tempo, and word choice, and you're very gentle in the way that you speak, and you do that for extended periods of time, more and more and more, that's what you're going to see coming back to you. But because you've been harsh and bitter and hostile in the past with people, it's not like you can snap your fingers and just change and be completely gentle and peaceful from this point forward. You need certain tools and techniques to uproot these pollutions out of your mind so that then you can be loving and kind. And as you put more love and kindness out over time, you'll see more and more loving kindness coming back to you. But if you practice this for a week or two and you're expecting everybody to be loving and kind with you, that's not the way this works. You need to bring your practice up to the point where you're being loving and kind, and then live your life that way for an extended period of time, multiple years. And what you'll see slowly but surely is your relationships will clear out, that you'll have more and more harmony in all your relationships. Oftentimes we think when we have difficulties in relationships that we need to change the other person. You might be doing that, or you might have done that in the past, where you're having difficulties in this relationship and you think the way to solve this is change the other person. This will never produce peace in your relationships because you can't change another person. Another person has to decide that they're going to change for themselves. The way that you improve your relationships is you change your own mind. And that's what loving kindness will do for you. And loving kindness meditation is it's going to change your mind so you can be loving and kind and warm and gentle with the people around you. So what the Buddha teaches you is he teaches you to practice mindfulness or awareness of mind, so you're aware that your anger is starting to arise. And when your anger is arising and you notice that, you might get to the point where you can notice it as a bodily sensation. There's going to be tingling in the body, tightening in the chest, tightening in the throat, heat in the face, pressure in the skull. This is the early warning system alerting you that you're about to get angry. You're about to get frustrated. You're about to get irritated or annoyed. And you have an opportunity there when that's arising, that it hasn't come into the mind yet, and you can cut it off and let it go. This is applying right effort. This is from the Eightfold Path. You apply the effort to eliminate the unwholesome quality and arise the wholesome quality. That's why you're doing the breathing mindfulness meditation this morning, where you focus on the breath, and anytime the mind moves off the breath, you cut that off and let it go and come back to the breath. This is training your mind to let go. You're building this internal mechanism in your mind to be able to cut off and let go. So if you can notice with your mindfulness or awareness of mind that you're about to experience one of these discontent feelings, you can then apply effort to cut that off and let it go. And if at the same time you've been doing loving kindness meditation on a consistent basis where you built up this loving kindness in your mind, now you can get rid of that unwholesome quality through applying right effort, get rid of the unwholesome quality of anger, and then apply effort to bring in this wholesome quality of loving kindness. So for example, let's just say you're checking in at an airport and you think that your flight's leaving in an hour and you're checking in your bags. And now when you check in, you say, hey, I'm here for my flight. Here's my passport. Here's my documents. I'd like to check in. And they're like, oh, I'm so sorry, sir. I'm sorry, ma'am. Your flight's not leaving for 3 hours. Your flight's delayed. And you notice the anger coming up? That's coming from your craving for permanence. The mind craves permanence. I want every single airplane to take off on time. It's not coming from the airline company. It's coming from your own mind. And if you notice that anger arising, instead of being bitter, harsh, and hostile and yelling and screaming at the person who's behind the ticket counter, which isn't going to solve anything at all, instead, you can notice that anger, cut it off and let it go. And now if you've been doing loving kindness meditation, you can bring in the loving kindness. Oh, thank you so much, sir. Thank you, ma'am, for letting me know that. I didn't realize the flight was delayed. So you say it's going to leave at 5 o'clock? Okay, I have about 3 hours. By the way, does your company give any kind of travel vouchers to maybe allow me to go eat at a restaurant? I don't know if they still do this or not. This is what they used to do in the old days. If your flight was late, they would give you a travel voucher to go eat for free in the restaurant. Do they still do that? Has anybody gotten one of those? No, I don't think they do that anymore, do they? Okay, that's what they used to do in the old days. If your flight was late, they'd give you a travel voucher. But you would only get one of those if you were polite, if you were kind, if you were warm and gentle. If you were bitter, harsh, and hostile, they're not going to give you one of those things, right? So you need to produce this wholesome karma, these wholesome results. So you'd like to practice loving kindness, where you're using your mindfulness to watch over your mind. And if at any time you see the anger and frustration arising, you eliminate that through applying effort to get it out of the mind and not allow it to even come into the mind. And then you bring in this loving kindness. And this is what's going to produce wholesome results for you. And more, when you do this, eventually this loving kindness will just be permeating in the mind at all times. You won't even have to apply the effort for it to be there. But in order to get there where you've brought your mind to full growth, full perfection, and full development, you're going to need to apply the effort to do that, doing the loving kindness meditation and then arising loving kindness in day-to-day life. Somebody cuts you off in traffic. You're driving and you feel the anger coming up. Oh my gosh, that's the craving, desire, attachment. That's the mind craving permanence. I want this lane to myself. This is my lane, right? This is the craving for permanence. Someone cuts you off. Not everybody drives the same way. That's impermanence. So now, instead of being angry and bitter and hostile and harsh, cut that off, cut that anger off, and arise loving kindness. Hey, brother, you would like that lane? It's yours. Take it. You can have it. Maybe let off your accelerator. Let them go. Because it's unwise to be around people who are making unwise decisions. If someone's driving erratically, you don't want to be anywhere near that person. Let them go, right? No need to honk your horn or road rage on them or anything like that. Just let them go, right? So this is going to help you to transform your anger and get rid of that so that now you can be more loving and kind. We'll talk about questions in a moment. Next, we'll talk about compassion. Compassion is the concern for the misfortune of others. This is actually going to bring your mind to the middle where it'll eliminate indifference as well as worry and anxiety. If you're not practicing compassion, you're going to have indifference where it's like, that homeless guy, I don't care. It's not my friend. It's not my family. Who cares? That's indifference. You're not going to get to peace and joy there because when you see people struggling, when you see people having difficulties, you just don't care. You have indifference. But then if you're on the other side of this, you can have worry and anxiety. Oh my gosh, those kids don't have food. What are they going to eat? Oh my gosh. And now you're worried and having stress and anxiety, having difficulties falling asleep at night because you're so worried about those children that you saw outside that don't have food. Right? So if you're on either side of this, your mind's not peaceful. Your mind's not joyful. You need to bring your mind to the full growth, full perfection, and full development of compassion, which is concern for the misfortune of others. Whether you choose to do something about this or not is a whole nother choice. That's not what we're talking about. We're just talking about cultivating the mental state of having concern for the misfortune of others. Because in some situations, when you have that concern and you see somebody experiencing some misfortune, you might actually choose to do something about it. But in other situations, you're not going to be able to do anything about it. And you need to be comfortable with that you're not going to be able to do something. So having compassion or the concern for the misfortune of others doesn't mean you're going to step in and actually fix whatever is going on. It just means that you maintain this concern for the misfortune of others. And the way that you cultivate this is with mindfulness or awareness of mind, that whenever you see your mind is indifferent or whenever you see that worry or anxiety, you cut that off and let it go, applying right effort. And then you bring in, with right effort, you bring in this compassion, this concern for the misfortune of others. So I'll give you some examples here so you can see this. In the past, I used to drive a motorbike, and as I would drive a motorbike, I would frequently see people get in accidents, right? Some of them are better or stronger accidents or worse accidents than others, but because I have a little bit of first aid skills, I would oftentimes pull over to the side of the road and try to make sure the person was okay and try to help them, right? So if I was driving somewhere, I would pull over and help them get their motorbike up, and I would help them brush themselves off, make sure they're okay, see if they need an ambulance or whatever needed to happen, right? And that's what I would do in a lot of situations. But there are some situations where I didn't do that. That doesn't mean I didn't have compassion. I had compassion. It's just that there was other things happening. So for example, there was a time where I was riding on my motorbike and my son had called me about 30 minutes before and said, "Hey Dad, I'm at home. I've been here all day. I don't have any food. It's 2:00. Can you bring me some food?" And I was like, "Oh, my son doesn't have any food. I need to bring him some food." So of course he asked for a pizza. So I went and got him a pizza, right? And then I had this pizza on my motorbike and I'm on my way home and somebody got into a motorbike accident. And I looked, because I have compassion, I have concern for their misfortune. I looked, and then there was like 2 or 3 people helping them, right? And I was like, oh, okay, they have someone helping them. They're good to go. I don't need to pull over. I'm going to keep driving, right? Because I also have compassion for my son as well, and I would like to get him some food. So these people already had some help. Didn't mean I didn't have compassion just because I didn't do something, right? The part of doing something is separate from the compassion. The compassion is the mental state where you maintain this concern for the misfortune of others. And now when you have that concern, whether you choose to do something is a whole separate question, but at least you practice compassion. So in that situation, I had compassion. I was like, oh, they had an accident. And then I noticed 2 or 3 people helping them right away. And I was like, oh, okay, they're good to go. I can keep on going. This person sitting at my house, they don't have anybody to help them. I'm the one that's helping them. This person has 2 or 3 people helping them. So this loving kindness and compassion is something that's going to antidote these symptoms of the mind. Whenever you see these symptoms, it's going to help you to be able to now bring in the wholesome quality. One of the things that also helps you to practice these things is with loving kindness, the Buddha teaches you that it would be nearly impossible for you to interact with a being that hasn't previously been your mother, father, brother, sister, son, daughter, or some other relative. That the Buddha teaches this cycle of rebirth, that we've all been reborn many, many times. This is not based in belief. This is something you can independently verify. Right now, you might be believing that you only have one life, but there's actually multiple lives. And the Buddha teaches you that because we've all been reborn so many times, that it would be impossible for you to interact with somebody that hasn't previously been your mother, father, brother, sister, son, daughter, or some other relative. So maybe we were brothers when we were in a previous life, or maybe you were my grandmother when we were in a previous life, right? So we've all been related at some point in time in the past, including animals and other beings that you interact with. These are all your family. They are all your relative. So that mosquito that you're about to swat, that's your grandmother, right? Are you going to do that to your grandmother, right? You're not interested in doing that, right? So that's why the Buddha teaches you to have love and kindness for all beings. So if you think about this, this will actually help you to cultivate this loving kindness. Here in Thailand, when people go outside and they interact, they will refer to each other using family names. So that elderly lady behind the cashier at the restaurant, you will hear Thai people referring to her as grandma, even though they've never met this person ever in their life. Or maybe that person at the gas station who's helping you, they might refer to this person as uncle or aunt or little brother or little sister or something like this. They literally talk to each other this way. You might have never met this person ever, but they use family names in order to be able to relate to each other. So I don't know that your culture has that same type of practice, but if you think that way, this can help you to bubble up your loving kindness. So instead of being bitter and harsh and hostile to the lady at the airport who's helping you check in and who just told you that your flight's delayed, think about this as your brother, your sister, your mother, your father, your son, your daughter, or some other relative, and this will help you to bring up that loving kindness. The thing that helps you with this compassion, the Buddha teaches you that any unfortunate situation that you see somebody in, he says that you've experienced that same misfortune, either in this life or some previous life. So if you see somebody, say, addicted to drugs or alcohol, and maybe they're struggling in life, the Buddha is saying you experience the same thing in this life or some future or some past life. Or you see someone who's impoverished and lacks resources, the Buddha is saying you experience that same thing in this life or some previous life. So you can see how this could be true if you've experienced multiple lives, that it's very likely that that's the case. So this can help you bubble up the compassion, that instead of seeing a stranger, a quote unquote stranger, someone who you don't know, instead think about it as, that's my uncle, that's my aunt, that's my grandma, that's my grandfather. And yeah, they're experiencing misfortune, but I've experienced that same misfortune too. So instead of looking down on them and judging them for being homeless or having difficulties with drugs or alcohol, instead put yourself in their same shoes, and then that can help you to arise compassion. And again, whether you choose to do something in these situations or not, that's a whole separate question, and you need to look at all the variables and decide whether it would be wise for you to actually do something in these situations. The Buddha doesn't teach you whether you should or shouldn't do something, because that's a choice for you to make based on your own discernment and your own wise decision making, because the variables are going to be different in each situation, and you may not be able to actually help in any given situation. But at least if you can maintain the mental state of loving kindness and compassion, this is going to help you to eliminate that anger, hatred, ill will, and even the slightest dislike towards others. And it's also going to help you to eliminate indifference, where you could care less about other people because you're not going to be peaceful and joyful there. And you can also eliminate that worry and anxiety as well. So do you guys have questions on any of these two? Yes, ma'am. Yeah, that'd be great. The people online will appreciate that. You just press the button. You're welcome to make yourself comfortable. Yeah, it's on now.
So I have a question about the loving kindness. I think what we just mentioned was that we see everything equally, being non-judgmental. However, I think that's very much against of what we have been, at least me, being taught in the society, in the education. It's hierarchical. There are different labels that you apply on people, sometimes even unconsciously. Like when you see someone, then there are labels coming up in head, and then categorize, then maybe choosing a different behavior or paying different respects. So how do we bridge that after practicing this in reality?
Sure. So what you're talking about is the mind has conceit. This is one of the pollutions that are in the mind, where the mind is measuring and comparing, thinking of one's self as being superior or inferior to other people. This is the mind looking down on people, and you usually treat those people one way, and you usually look up to people and you treat these people another way, and you kind of feel shaken up around them. This is one of the pollutions that the mind needs to eliminate. Where this comes from is your animal existences. In the animal world, you needed conceit, because if you were in a pack of wolves and you didn't know who the alpha male and alpha female were, you wouldn't know how to hunt. You wouldn't know how to survive as a wolf. Or if you were in a herd of elephants, you needed to know who's the matriarch of our herd, because if you didn't know who the matriarch of our herd was, who was above us, you wouldn't be able to learn where the food is, where the migration paths are, where the watering holes are. We needed conceit when we were in the animal world. But when we come into the human world, the mind is still conditioned that way, and it holds on to this conceit, and it develops more and more of this conceit, where it becomes conceited, where you're measuring and comparing people, thinking that you're above them or below them. So you need to train your mind to eliminate this, and there's specific teachings on this. It's actually in chapter 16. So in 2 weeks, I'm going to be teaching how to eliminate conceit from the mind. What you're describing is what we refer to as conditioning of the mind. The mind has been conditioned to think about the world in a certain way, that you have been taught that there's a hierarchical structure in society, and that you need to treat these people in a certain way and be subservient to them, and these people that are below you, you need to treat them in a different way. And that's the conditioning that the mind has had as an unenlightened being. Your mind's been conditioned that way. But what the Buddha is teaching you to do on this path is he's teaching you to get to an unconditioned mind, where you've cleaned all that out and you've purified your mind. And instead of having this conceit that you see everybody as equal. But the mind's not going to just be able to do that through an intellectual conversation, because you can see, like, yeah, it would be much better if everybody just treated everyone equally. We have different roles in society. We have a president and prime minister. We have a king and a queen. We have these people, but we don't need to look up to them like they're so far above us. And then we have people that sweep the streets, and we don't need to look at them as being below us. We can just look at everybody as being equal. And this is where the mind is actually quite peaceful, because you can treat everybody the same. You see the person sweeping the street, or you see the king or queen of Thailand walking down the street. Hello, sir. Hello, ma'am. How are you? Good morning. You just treat everybody the same, right? Where if you have conceit in your mind's having to obsessively figure out who's above you and who's below you. And then you have to change the way you function for this person who's above you versus the person who you feel is below you. And this puts strain on the mind. It puts a burden on the mind, and you can eliminate that burden. But it's a different set of teachings that's going to teach you how to do that. It's training your mind to be humble and look at everybody as being equal. And this is leaning in that direction. But ultimately, when we get to chapter 16, that's where you're going to learn it 100%.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I don't see any questions online, and I don't see any more here. Oh, we do have a question online. This is coming from someone here. Do you believe that the animals that end up on people's plates and after have been treated and killed brutally, have lived their karma from a previous life? Well, I think your name is Julie. I think that's the way you pronounce it. I don't have any beliefs whatsoever, because with belief, you don't know what's true or false. You're just believing it. Instead, what the Buddha is guiding you to be able to do is be able to see the truth and have wisdom. I don't eat meat, so I don't have any animals on the plate that I eat any longer. I used to, and many of us eat meat in the past. And if somebody's choosing to eat meat now, that's a choice for them to make. It's not up to me to tell them whether they should or shouldn't eat meat or not. But instead, if somebody would like to choose to eat plant-based food, they'll actually see that it actually helps improve the health of their body. But yes, in order for an animal to end up on your plate, there is a certain killing that is occurring. And this is why I choose not to eat any longer meat. And I know that by choosing not to be involved in that I experience improved health of the body, where I used to get a lot of difficulties in my stomach and my digestion from eating meat. And there was also a certain effect to the mind because of that too. I don't have that anymore. So it sounds like perhaps that you're either considering eating plant-based food, or maybe you're currently eating plant-based food. That's great. But it's important for you to not have the expectation that everybody should do things that way, because that's the mind craving permanence. And it's important not to look down on somebody who might choose to eat meat, because that would be unwise too. That would be the mind's conceit or the mind's ego. You have a question, ma'am?
Hi. My question is relating to the compassion bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I understood that what the Buddha is trying to teach is the middle way. So you don't want to be indifferent. I think kind of like my question is more related to the other kind of extreme, in which you see, for example, a person who is less fortunate than you, like a homeless person, for example, or a person who is in a worse condition than you, and how to train the mind. And I understand that we have like circles of actions, like I can not save the world from everything, and I cannot avoid everyone from suffering.
Mm-hmm.
But how would it be possible to train the mind to go to the middle way, rather than it's not, I guess I would say being not too compassion, but like having that suffering because of the misfortune of others affecting you a lot.
Yeah. So the first thing you need to do is you need to eliminate what's called craving and worry for the world. If you have a craving for the world to be a certain way, when it's not that way, you will worry, right? What you need to be able to understand is each being is experiencing the results of its decisions. Whatever decisions it made, it's experiencing those decisions, the results of those. This isn't about blame or fault. This isn't about, punishments and rewards. It's about a cause and effect. There's a sequence of events that we make certain decisions and we experience certain results. So if somebody's making certain decisions, they're going to experience those results. And so if somebody's having certain struggles or difficulties, there are certain decisions that led to that. And in order for them to get out of that, they're going to need to make decisions to get out of that. So they need wisdom. So for example, you can't feed somebody out of hunger. If somebody's hungry, you can't feed them out of hunger, because if you feed them, they're not going to get out of hunger, because as soon as you stop feeding them, they are hungry again. They haven't learned how to acquire those resources on their own. So in order for this person to get out of hunger, they need to cultivate wisdom. And they might need some food for a period of time from people that are generous and compassionate to be able to help them, to be able to sustain their life. But they're ultimately going to need to cultivate wisdom to be able to figure out how to acquire food on their own. So you need to be able to eliminate any craving for the world to be a certain way, because now you can function through peace and joy, understanding that, okay, this person's experiencing an unfortunate situation, but I didn't create that, and I can't get that person out of that situation. If they're going to get out of that situation, they have to make choices themselves to get out of that situation. Now, I might be able to supplement what they're experiencing in order to be able to help them for a period of time, but ultimately they need to stand up on their own 2 feet to be able to have a sustainable life. So whenever you see your mind is not having compassion, you're going to need to practice this right effort. So if you're noticing that you are having worry and anxiety, oh my gosh, that person's homeless. What are they going to do? They look like they haven't taken a shower for 3 weeks. Oh, I'm so worried about them. Where you see that worry coming up in your mind, that's your mindfulness. Then you need to apply the effort to eliminate that craving and that longing, yearning for this person to be experiencing a certain thing. You need to eliminate that longing, yearning, and you need to bring in the compassion where you have concern for this person's misfortune, right? So let's just say that you're walking down the street and you happen to be interacting with this person, and you notice the anger or the worry coming up. Now you apply the effort to cut that off. And now maybe you talk to them. You're like, hey, I see it seems like you don't have any clothing or you have any food. Is that something that you would like to get? You can talk to this person. Whereas if you're so worried and having anxiety, you might go too far. You might give so much that you don't actually have what you need in order to be able to sustain your life. So you need to be able to come to the middle, not only with your compassion, but if you choose to go to the next step, which would be generosity, to be able to help this person, you need to do that from the middle way too. But when your mind's having worry and anxiety, you won't be able to do that. Like I see some people that they worry about stray animals so much that they will exhaust their life savings. They will spend money on their credit cards and they will go into debt and bankruptcy just to try to save these animals. And this isn't necessarily wise because now you don't have the resources that you need in order to sustain your life. So when you have that worry and anxiety and you allow that in the mind's not functioning from the middle, and now you'll make unwise decisions that are going to impact you in an unwholesome way. So you would like to use your mindfulness or awareness of mind to watch over the mind. And anytime you see that worry and anxiety because of someone's misfortune, apply right effort to cut that off and let it go. And then apply the effort to arise the concern for misfortune. Because if you have worry and anxiety, that's because you see all the problems. You see all the problems in the world, and now you're having worry and anxiety. But if you have concern, you see the problems, but you also see the solution. And the solution is that this person needs to cultivate wisdom. I am not the solution to this person's problems in terms of giving them food or water or clothing. I'm not the solution. The solution is they need to cultivate wisdom and make different decisions, and they'll experience different results. And sure, I might choose to make the decision to practice some generosity to give them more time to be able to do that, but I'm not the solution. So a person who has concern can see the problem, but they also understand the solution too. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The worried person just sees the problem. Yep. All right. So now we're going to go to the next two. The next two are sympathetic joy and equanimity. Sympathetic joy is joy for others' success, even if you didn't contribute to it. This is the opposite of jealousy or envy. If you have jealousy or envy, this is because of craving, desire, attachment. The mind's longing, yearning. Your neighbor gets a brand new car, and now you're jealous, right? That's because I want that car too, or I want a better car than them. Right? The mind wants to show off in front of others. Or say that your friend goes on a holiday or goes on a new vacation, and they end up going somewhere that you've always been wanting to go. You've always been wanting to go to South Africa and you've never gone. And here they are, they're taking a trip to South Africa. Now you're jealous and you're envious because you really want to go, right? This is the craving, desire, attachment that's producing that jealousy. So you need to be able to understand that you can cultivate your mind to have joy for their success, even though you didn't contribute to it. That's what's going to get rid of that jealousy and envy, because it's not comfortable to experience the jealousy and envy. So you're going to need to have mindfulness or awareness of mind that your mind is experiencing that jealousy. That's the symptom. And then the antidote or the prescription is sympathetic joy. Be joyful for their success, even though you didn't contribute to it. So let's just say you're at work and there's a new position that opens up in your company. It's a new job title, new salary, new office, new responsibilities. And you're like, oh my gosh, that's the perfect job. I really would like to get that job. And now you apply for the job. And so do some of your other coworkers, but they get the job instead of you. And now if you notice when they come around, they're like, hey, by the way, I got that new job. And you notice the jealousy and envy coming up. You notice that with your mindfulness, your awareness of mind, you're going to need to apply the effort to cut that off and let it go, and now bring in this sympathetic joy and say, you know what? I'm very pleased for you. That's wonderful. That's going to really help your family. I know you've been interested in that job. I was interested in it too, but I'm really pleased that you got that job. That's wonderful for you. And you might not really have it 100% in your mind. They might be really struggling, especially if they walk around all conceited and arrogant, thinking they're so great because they got that new job, pouting around and puffed out. It might be really hard for you, but you've got to do that work. It doesn't help you to be jealous and envious. It's not going to help you at all because it's going to come out through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. Now you guys are in a business meeting together. There's 3, 4, 5, 6 other people, and you're jealous and envious, and you're talking in unkind ways, and it's going to reflect poorly on you, and it's going to not help you to be able to maybe get another promotion. Maybe there's another promotion that's going to come out in another 6 months or a year. Maybe that one's even better than that one that you were originally applying for, but you're not going to get that one because you're so bitter and harsh over here because of that jealousy. So you can't allow that to pollute your mind. So that's why the sympathetic joy is there, to help bring that up in your mind and help it to permeate more and more. So you're going to need to use your mindfulness or your awareness of mind to be able to watch over your mind. It's almost like a virus scanner on your computer watching over your hard drive. And whenever there's a virus that hits your hard drive, the virus scanner quarantines it and cleans it up and gets it off your hard drive. So the same thing is true. Your mindfulness is watching over your mind. And whenever you see that jealousy or envy coming, you apply right effort to cut that off and let it go and eliminate it out of the mind. Then there's something called equanimity. There's 2 parts to this. Equanimity is mental calmness and composure, evenness of temper, especially in difficult situations. But then there's another part to it, which is treating everyone impartially. So let me explain both of these. This calmness and composure, this evenness of temper, this is keeping your mind stable and steady. Because if your mind's not stable and steady, you're not going to be able to make wise decisions. And now when you make unwise decisions, it's going to produce unwholesome results. So say, for example, you get a phone call that your mom's been in a terrible car accident and she's being rushed to the hospital. She's in the back of an ambulance, and you hear this news and your mind gets shaken up because you crave for mom to be permanently healthy. It's not your love that's causing your mind to be shaken up there. It's your mind craving mom to be permanently healthy. And it's not possible for mom to be permanently healthy. She's going to get sick. She's going to get old. She's going to die. This is going to happen to every single one of us. So if you can only be happy if mom is healthy, that means when she's unhealthy, your mind's going to be shaken up. So when you get this news that mom's in the back of an ambulance being rushed to the hospital, you might grab your car keys, jump in the car, run across town, flying through the streets, trying to hurry up and get to the hospital. Well, you might actually get into a car accident yourself because your mind's all shaken up, right? And that's not going to help anybody. That's not helping mom. Or at the very least, even if you show up to the hospital, your mind's going to be all shaken up. And now when the doctors and the nurses are talking to you and trying to explain to you what's going on so that you can start making some decisions to help mom, you can't do that because your mind's all shaken up. So the Buddha is teaching you to have equanimity, or you can have calmness and composure, evenness of temper, especially in difficult situations. So when you get this phone call that mom's been in the back of an ambulance, you can say, thank goodness she's in the back of an ambulance. That's exactly where she should be. That's wonderful. She's got emergency medical technicians taking care of her. Outstanding. She's about to show up to a hospital with sophisticated equipment, doctors and nurses to take care of her. Excellent. That's perfect. Let me make my way to the hospital calmly, because getting there 10 minutes earlier or 5 minutes earlier isn't going to help mom. Nothing about you showing up at the hospital 5 or 10 minutes earlier is going to help mom. Instead, make your way to the hospital calmly so that you can arrive safely. And then when you arrive, your mind is calm and you can start talking to the doctors and the nurses, finding out what's going on. And now you can make some decisions to help her. So that's why the Buddha is teaching you equanimity, so that your mind can be stable and steady in these types of situations. And now you can make wise decisions to produce wholesome results. So this calmness and composure is something that you're going to need to cultivate. That when you see your mind is not calm and composed, with your mindfulness, watching over your mind, where you see that your mind's not calm and composed, you're going to need to apply effort to bring in that calmness and composure. So if you get off the phone and you see your mind shaken up, worried about mom, you might take a few moments to just close your eyes, breathe, relax, before you head out into the world and get in the car. Because nothing about you racing across town is going to help mom, right? So you need to be able to see that truth. Then there's treating everyone impartially, because the root word here of equanimity is equal, right? That's the root word of equanimity is equal. And you would like to treat everybody equally, because when you don't treat people equally, they have craving, desire, attachment in their mind. They're going to get jealous. They're going to attribute those painful feelings of jealousy to you. And they're going to think you're the one who's causing them to feel jealous. And they're either going to push you away, they're going to be bitter, harsh, and hostile to you, or they're going to start putting their expectations on you and try to pressure you and control you, because they don't understand that it's their own mind that's causing these feelings. So one of the things that the Buddha is teaching you to do, of course, is eliminate your own discontent feelings. But he's also teaching you how to navigate the world full of unenlightened beings. And let's just say you're working in a professional environment, and let's just say you have 8 coworkers, and there's like one coworker that you're really good friends with. And when you go to lunch, you got yourself a milkshake and you bought them a milkshake too. And you brought back the milkshake for your one friend and your coworker. Well, the other 7 who see that, they're going to get jealous. They're going to get envious because they have craving, desire, attachment. They really want that milkshake, right? And now their mind's longing, yearning for it. And they're jealous because you brought it for that person and not them. And now they're going to start being bitter and harsh and hostile to you. It's going to damage your relationships, right? And if you're the boss, it's going to be really difficult for you to get things accomplished in this professional environment when people are functioning this way. So the Buddha is teaching you how to not experience that by treating everyone impartially. So if you're going to bring back a milkshake, bring back one for everybody. If you're going to bring bagels in the morning, bring one for everybody, right? If you work in a large company where there's 300 people, you can't bring 300 bagels or 300 milkshakes. So what you might decide to do instead is, if you're going to practice generosity in this situation, is that you bring back, say you're going to bring back 20 bagels. You put them in the conference room and you send out an email to the entire company, said, hey, everybody, I brought some bagels in this morning. You're more than welcome to have one. Well, now if I'm typing out an email and I'm delaying going to the conference room to get my bagel, and I'm the 21st person who walks in and there's no bagel, then I can see that that was my decisions, that I chose to continue to write that email. I didn't go right away when I got your email. So now I can see that it's my mind that is experiencing this. It was my choices that led to this. So you're going to need to treat everyone equally. If you have multiple children, you're going to need to treat them all the same. If you get one person a present, get the other person a present. When I was growing up as a child and we would go to my grandmother's house and my sisters might be having a birthday, if my sister was getting birthday presents from my grandmother, I would be getting a present too. 1 or 2, right? And she did this for a period of time until we were about 12 years old. And then she kind of stopped doing that, because you also need to help the child train its mind that, hey, you're not going to always get what you want, right? So when we were young and we didn't quite understand this, in order to train our mind to not be jealous of each other, my grandmother, if she was getting me a birthday present, she would give one for my sister too. Or if my sister was getting a present, I would get a present too. She would treat everybody equally, right? So this is what you would like to do, is treat everybody equally. If you have employees, if you have neighbors, if you're going to invite your neighbors to a party, make sure you invite all of them, right? You like to treat everybody equally. And this is going to help protect you in your relationships, that people aren't going to be bitter, harsh, and hostile towards you based in their jealousy. This is going to help improve that. So this equanimity is helping you with this restlessness and worry, this overactive mind, but it's also helping you with this pride, this arrogance and ego, where, people might be putting themselves above you or below you, or you might be putting yourself above people or below you, and just treating everybody equally and impartially, where you're not treating some people one way and another group of people another way, but you can just treat everybody equally and everybody the same. So any questions on these two here? No questions? Okay. Okay, so we have some more coming in on Facebook here. I've been searching for my 10 years as a vegan for a way to reconcile the suffering that agricultural animals experience. So this is their Dhamma. It's not about, whether they deserve it. It's not about whether they're being punished or anything like this. It's because they're born in that realm. That's what they're experiencing. As human beings, more and more, if we choose not to do that, they won't experience that. But at this point in time, that's what they're experiencing as a result of decisions that are being made. We can talk about this more privately. If you send me a message, you'll find my information on Facebook, or you'll find it on our website, and we can talk about it in more detail to help you out there. Okay. All right, so I don't see anything else there. So one last thing. This isn't part of the Brahma-viharas, because these are the 4 Brahma-viharas. These are the 4 healthy mental states: loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. This is what the Buddha is teaching you to antidote these certain symptoms in the mind. In this particular chapter 14, it's not a Brahma-vihara, but I talk about this one mental state of generosity because it's so important. It's not part of the Brahma-viharas, but it's something that the Buddha taught, and it's something that is important for you to cultivate as part of your practice. If you didn't cultivate this, you wouldn't be able to experience enlightenment, where the mind's peaceful and joyful permanently. What we experience in the unenlightened state, when the mind has craving, desire, attachment, is there's a certain amount of selfishness, where the mind will hold on to things and be selfish. It's my food, my money, my jewelry, my phone, my boyfriend, my girlfriend, my house, my car, mine. The mind will hold on to things very tightly. And this is going to produce discontentedness, because if you hold on to these things really tightly, craving for them to be permanent, when you experience impermanence, your mind will experience difficulties and struggles there. So the Buddha teaches generosity, where you're giving and sharing with the people around you without any expectation of anything in return, such as your time, effort, energy, and resources. This is going to help you to train your mind to eliminate selfishness. Because if you're selfish, your mind's holding on to things very tight. But also, if you're giving excessively, you're not going to have the resources that you need in order to sustain your life. So with generosity, you need to practice this from the middle way. And this is going to train your mind to get to peace and joy, in addition to all the other teachings that the Buddha shares, because it trains your mind to let go. So, for example, if you get your clothing out of the washing machine and it's ripped and torn, and you get angry or frustrated about that, that's because you're having a craving for your clothing to be permanent. And this clothing is not permanent. So what you might decide to do is give away some of your clothing, donate it to some places. This is going to train your mind to let go. If you notice, when your bank account balance is up here, you're really happy. But when it goes down here, you're frustrated or agitated. That's because you're attached to your money. You're going to need to apply generosity here and train your mind to give and share with others. What you'll notice is frequency is more important than the amount. So if you were going to give $500 once a year to an orphanage, it would be better to give $1 a day, because more frequently your mind's having to let go, let go, let go, let go. So you would like to incorporate generosity into your day-to-day life. The Buddha teaches to practice generosity daily. So if you're going to the market and you're buying some mangoes, you might toss some bananas in there in order to give away to your neighbors. Or maybe you're going into 7-Eleven to buy yourself a chocolate bar. Maybe you buy 1 or 2 or 3 extras. You don't even know who you're going to give it to. You just know that you're going to see somebody over the next day or two, and you'd like to give away this chocolate bar. This is going to help you to practice generosity. You can incorporate it into your life in ways that are easy, that you don't have to, spend 6 hours a day to practice generosity. You can do things very simply like this. Maybe you're walking into a store and you see there's somebody behind you, and you sit there and you hold the door for them and let them go through, and you can hold the door for them. This is generosity. But remember, you need to practice generosity without any expectation of anything in return. Because if you're standing there holding the door, expecting them to say thank you, when they walk through the door and they don't say thank you, you will cause your mind to be annoyed or frustrated. This is the craving for permanence. I want everybody who walks through this door to say thank you. Now, we're not talking about what's wise or unwise, because when you walk through the door and you see someone standing there, you probably say thank you, but not everybody will, because we live in an impermanent world. Some people will say thank you and some people won't. So if you're going to practice generosity, pure generosity is without any expectation of anything in return, not even a thank you. And if you can practice to that level regularly, it'll help train your mind to let go. So you'd like to be able to share your time, effort, energy, and resources without any expectation of anything in return. This is a practice of generosity, and you'd like to be doing this daily. This is going to help train your mind to let go. So do you guys have any questions on generosity? Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So actually last week, if you remember, I asked a question about generosity. So like I was practicing generosity on my friends, but I also expect him to accept it. But in the end, he didn't. So I feel frustrated and upset. But in the end, actually, I realized that it was me at the first end didn't accept his generosity. So like when I have no problem practicing generous on others, like sharing my time, my energy, my money, or sometimes. But when the others are practicing generosity on me, I kind of feel guilty, and I feel like they have no obligation to do that to me. So once they do practice the generosity on me, I immediately want to pay it back. And then like when things happens when things like this happens to me for like often, I sometimes feel like it's a burden to me. So I was wondering, like in this case, what should I do?
Okay. So the first thing is to understand that when you were practicing generosity with your friend and he didn't accept it and you got frustrated, I think, in that situation, that's not generosity. It's the act of giving, but because you had an expectation that he would accept it, it wasn't pure generosity yet. So you would like to get that more and more to pure generosity, because when you're practicing pure generosity and you see that experience, that's going to really help your mind more and more. It will also help you when people are practicing generosity with you, because you will see that right now in your mind, when you're practicing generosity, trying to practice generosity, it comes with expectations. And you might think that when this person is practicing generosity with you, that they have expectations, and your mind is maybe getting stuck with that you don't want them to have expectations. So you feel like you've got to pay it back right away. So by you getting to pure generosity, where you're truly practicing pure generosity, you'll be able to see the pure generosity on behalf of the people who are practicing with you, and you'll get more and more comfortable with accepting it. So it's when people are doing things and they're experiencing things that are uncomfortable, typically what people like to do is avoid it. That's what the mind does, is it pushes it away. It's called aversion. But what you would like to do is put the mind in this situation where someone's giving you a gift and you're willingly accepting it, and don't feel like you have to hurry up and give something back to that person. And you're going to need to train your mind to do this through applying effort. Where you see your mind wanting to give them back something right away, don't allow the mind to do that. You're going to need to restrain the mind and not allow the mind to do that. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah. By the way, would you like to have some snacks over there? I'd like to offer you some snacks. Would you like some snacks? I have some snacks for you over there. You're welcome to have some if you like. Give you a chance to practice. You have a question?
Yeah, thank you very much. I have another question about generosity, because I noticed in Thailand, in temples, people tend to give away food instead of money sometimes compared to other countries, because other temples or shrines or churches that I visited, it was mostly donating money directly. So I'm wondering if there is a special reason in Thailand it's not attached so closely to the monetary return, or like a monetary donation of this, because I think this kind of, I personally do not want to attach a price tag on my respect to a certain person or thing, and I think I want to just ask for your opinion on that. Thank you.
Sure. So the people in Thailand do make monetary donations, because that's how the temples pay for electric and water and maintenance and upkeep of the temple. So there are financial contributions. You might just not see it when it's occurring. But during the lifetime of the Buddha, he didn't accept currency. The currency at the time was gold and silver. He didn't accept that. He didn't accept land. He didn't accept animals. He didn't accept anything worth of value because he lived right alongside of his students, and they were able to take care of him. He was sleeping in their homes. They were feeding him. They were giving him medical care, all the things that he needed to sustain his life. Here in Thailand, they make offerings of all those types of things because they need to be able to help the ordained practitioners and teachers to be able to sustain their life in order to be able to share the teachings. So when you're making an offering, it's not about how much you respect the person. That shouldn't come into the equation at all, because there could be someone who doesn't have very many resources, and they maybe can only offer a small amount of money, for example, but they might have an enormous amount of respect for that person. So it's not about the amount of respect. Whenever you're making an offering to a temple or to a teacher, what you're doing is you're practicing generosity yourself to enhance the quality of your mind, and you're making the teachings available to other people. You're helping that teacher or that facility to be able to offer the teachings to be available for other people. It's not about your respect, of course, because you can respect someone and not give them anything at all. It's possible for you to do that. So it's important that you take that part of it out. The only reason why you would practice generosity is to enhance the quality of your mind, understanding that it's eliminating craving, desire, attachment. And then if you're practicing towards a temple or toward a teacher, it's to be able to help others get access to the teachings. The reason why Thai people offer food a lot, in my opinion, is that food is kind of like a symbol of endearment. It's a symbol of warmth, and it's like, I would like to take care of you. In Thailand, when you ask someone like, how are you doing? You usually will say, Gin khao liang mai kap, which is, have you eaten yet? So if somebody comes to your house, it's not like, hello, how are you? I mean, you do that, sawadee kap, but the very next phrase is, have you eaten yet? Because if they say no, it's like, okay, well, here's some food. Right away, everybody's sharing their food, because this is a resource that not everybody has. And the Thai people like to make sure that everybody has eaten and everybody has food. In fact, I tell this story sometimes. I had to renew my driver's license a few years ago. And as part of this process, I had to watch a few videos online in order to be able to renew my driver's license. Thai people really enjoy eating. You probably noticed that. There's food everywhere, right? Well, these recorded videos that you needed to watch in order to renew your driver's license, the two people came online and they came on the video and they're like, hey, everybody, welcome. We're going to help you renew your driver's license. You've got to learn these few little things, blah, 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 blah. But before we do, we'd like to take you to go eat. So they took the cameras and they went with you they took the cameras to a restaurant and they sat down and ate, and they sat there and talked while they were eating, right? And there was actually 3 or 4 different videos, and every single video they went to go eat first before they would teach you. And this is like Thai culture. It's like everybody needs to have food. You need to have some food in your stomach. Because it's really hot out there, and you go out there without any food, and you can really easily be depleted and collapse. So they like to make sure that people are sustained with food. This is a real sign of endearment to be able to offer food and that type of resource. So that's why I think they offer food, because of these reasons. And also the Buddha didn't really accept any currency. But they do offer money nowadays, because we have bills to be able to pay, and there's not always a student right there with us when we have to pay for those things. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so I'm going to end class here by thanking all of you guys for joining. Thank you for your interest to learn and understand the teachings of the Buddha. If you guys would like to learn more, there's plenty of opportunities for that. Like I mentioned, this evening at 6:30, I'm going to be doing loving kindness meditation. So if you guys would like to learn that, you're more than welcome to come and learn that and do that together here. And then at 9 p.m. tonight, I'm going to be teaching the same class, because I teach it at 2 different times because I live stream it. The people in Europe right now are sleeping, so I do it twice a day so that everybody has an opportunity to be able to attend live through our live stream. So no matter where you are in the world, you can attend our classes here. I suggest you guys start with this first book. You can download it from our website for free. You can take it and go print it. You can get printed versions here by just reimbursing us for the printing cost, or you can order it on Amazon. This is the best place to really get started. And then next week, we're going to be in chapter 15, which is titled True Love, love without attachment. Oftentimes people are misunderstanding love, and because of that, they find it very difficult to have loving relationships. If you're falling in love or out of love with people, you actually don't know what love is yet. If you think that love hurts and love is painful, you don't know what love is yet, and you're not practicing true love. And this is one of the reasons why you're having challenges in some of your relationships. So next week, I'm going to be teaching what is true love and how to practice this so that you can practice it more and more, and you can experience more and more love in your day-to-day life. So enjoy your day, whatever you choose to do, and perhaps we'll see you next time, okay? Sawadee-khap.
Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.